Hey, everybody. I hope you're doing well today. Well, now we begin our studies of low and stable rate of inflation, another macroeconomic goal of every government. This is the job of the government to maintain a low and stable rate of increases in prices in the economy. Any fluctuations of prices have massive consequences to real people and economies. And if you are a decision maker, in other words, a politician who's elected, and there is a lot of inflation, chances are, if it's a free market or free democracy rather, you are not going to get reelected. So inflation is a very important thing to governments because it has a real impact on every single member of the society that's there. And the easiest way to put it, and I'm going to throw it at you right away, is imagine if you worked as hard as you possibly could and you earned $10. And then you put that $10 in the bank, and in a month, that $10 halved in value because the government wasn't managing prices properly. So let's say for $10 this month, you could buy a new skateboard. But next month, that skateboard is going to cost you $20. What happened to the value of your $10? It halved. Well, imagine if you were saving for your retirement and there's massive inflation and you have, I don't know, $50,000 saved up for graduation. For kind of graduation, graduating from working, from retirement, and all of a sudden there's 10% inflation a year in your country, the value of your hard-earned $50,000 is dropping by 10% a year. That means in 1 year, the buying power of that $50,000 is only $45,000, right? And the next year, 10% less, and the next year, 10% less. That'll kill you, right? You're actually losing the ability to buy things that you thought you were going to be able to buy. Inflation is major. And what governments try to do is they try to maintain a low and stable rate of inflation of around 2 to 3% in industrialized societies. All right, let's look at some technical terms. Okay. So this is it. This is the last slide of this video. It's going to be really short. I just want to throw the definition at you. Definition: inflation is defined as a persistent increase in the average price level in the economy, usually measured through the calculation of a consumer price index, or CPI. I'll get into what CPI means in another video. But the word persistent is of great importance in your understanding of inflation, right? This is not a single increase in prices. No, that's not inflation. Inflation occurs when there is a sustained increase in the price level. So the best way to think about that is, imagine if the price of gasoline goes from, say, $4 a gallon to $8 a gallon. Practically everything in a modern economy at some point gets on a truck, a plane, a ship, a train, and therefore the price of transportation just doubled. It went from $4 a gallon to $5 a gallon, or $1 a liter, right, to $2 a liter. Guess what? That's catastrophic for prices because firms are going to have to pay twice as much to put everything on a truck. And that's going to push prices up. Is that going to come back down? No, probably not. Right? Gas prices, they fluctuate a lot in some countries more than others, but generally there's a general rise in the price of energy. And as a result, there's a general rise in all price levels. So that's what inflation is. So don't confuse inflation with an increase in the price of a particular good or service. We're talking about economy-wide average price level. Okay, so how could we show that? We're getting ahead of ourselves, but I think at the beginning of inflation, it's important to see how this works because you also already have this information in your head. You know what to do, right? So here's a very simple aggregate demand, short run aggregate supply diagram, right? Here's the average price level, and here's real output. Well, there are two ways that inflation happens. One is called demand pull inflation, which is very simple. If you think about it, demand pull, what is it saying? It's saying that demand is going up and it's pulling the price level along with it, right? So as aggregate demand goes from 81 here to 82, what happens? Well, it shifts out, and that's great, right? People are like, hey, I want to buy more stuff. It's Christmas time. I had a great year in business, and I'm going to buy my kids more stuff. And everybody's having a great year. But what happens? Demand goes up. But we know as demand goes up, what happens? Price levels rise, right? Output will rise for sure, but price levels rise. That is inflation, right? And what's causing it? Demand. What's it doing? It's pulling the price levels up. So demand pull inflation is one category, one type of inflation. The other is called cost push, which is kind of the opposite, right? We start here at P1, Y1, and we know prices are going to go up, but how are we going to cost push? What are cost effects? Cost affects producers, firms. The factors of production, the cost of the factors of production has gone up. What does that mean? That means the short run aggregate supply curve is going to shift inward. It's going to be pushed inward. What's it pushing? It's pushing the price levels up because it's pushed inward, right? So as the short run aggregate supply curve, because of an increase in cost, say of, I don't know, a minimum wage requirement, or maybe gasoline has gone up and they have to pay more, right, for shipping everything to market. And so this shift of costs is reflected in all price levels. So this is cost push inflation. What does it mean? It means that as costs go up, right, the price of things will go up also. And what happens? Well, we know that means a new equilibrium, right, point of average price level of P2 and the real output of Y2. As prices go up, people will demand less. And that means, guess what? Suppliers will produce less, and you have an inward shift. Okay? So just let those sit in your mind. Don't stress if you know all that. There are further videos to further understand demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. But just sit with that. If you have these two ideas in your head and you're like, oh yeah, I get it. For right now, on that level, you're golden. Okay? I hope you found this video helpful, and we'll talk to you in a bit.